Eli Turner's ranch sat alone beneath a wide, quiet sky, where the wind moved through dry grass like whispered thoughts. The land had been in his family for years, but after his parents passed, the work and the silence both became heavier. Eli was good with animals, good with routine, but not with people. When neighbors waved from passing trucks, he raised a hand and looked away. Words always seemed to tangle in his throat, so he learned to live without using many of them. The problem came during calving season. The days grew longer, the work more exhausting, and meals became an afterthought. Cold beans, dry bread, whatever took the least effort. When his neighbor suggested hiring a cook, Eli almost said no. Letting someone into his space felt risky. Still, exhaustion won. That was how Ayana Yazi arrived one late afternoon, standing at the ranch gate with a simple bag and a calm expression. She was tall, steady, and carried herself with quiet confidence. When she spoke, her voice was clear and respectful, not rushed. She didn't overwhelm him with chatter or questions. She simply asked what hours he needed help, what food he preferred, and where she should begin. Eli answered awkwardly, stumbling over his words, expecting her to grow impatient. She didn't. She waited, listened, nodded. From the first evening, the ranch felt subtly different. The smell of warm stew filled the house, replacing the usual dust and loneliness. Ayana moved through the kitchen like she belonged there, careful with his things, never rearranging more than necessary. She didn't comment on the mess or the quiet. She just worked. Eli ate at the table instead of standing by the counter. He didn't know why that mattered, but it did. Outside, the sun dipped low, painting the land gold, and for once Eli noticed. That night, lying in bed, he realized something unsettling and new. The ranch didn't feel like a place he was surviving anymore. It felt like a place that might someday feel like home again. As the week continued, Eli settled into a rhythm he hadn't realized he was missing. Each morning, the smell of fresh coffee drifted through the house before he even stepped outside. Ayana was always awake before dawn, moving quietly, respecting the stillness of the ranch. She never startled him with sudden noise or questions, and that made the space feel safe in a way he couldn't explain. The meals changed everything. They weren't fancy, but they were thoughtful. Warm bread, slow-cooked beans, simple stews that filled him with steady energy instead of rushing him back into work. Eating regularly made Eli feel clearer, stronger. He stopped skipping lunch. He stopped forgetting himself. Ayana didn't push conversation, yet when she spoke, it was meaningful. In the evenings, she sat on the porch steps, watching the sky darken. Sometimes she shared small stories about growing up surrounded by open land, about listening to elders speak carefully, choosing words the way others chose tools. She spoke about patience, as if it were a skill that could be learned. Eli listened more than he spoke, but that was new for him too. He was used to silence that felt empty. This silence felt full. When he did speak, it surprised him. A short comment about the cattle, a memory about his father fixing fences. Each time, Ayana met his words with quiet respect, never interrupting, never correcting. That made it easier to keep going. Slowly, changes appeared around the ranch. Tools were cleaned and placed back where he could find them. A broken chair was mended without a word. A schedule for feed and supplies appeared on the kitchen table one morning, written neatly but not bossily. Eli felt a strange mix of relief and embarrassment, but mostly relief. On the seventh day, as the sun hovered low and the cattle settled, Ayana asked if he would walk the far fence line with her. The request caught him off guard. He hesitated, fingers curling into his jacket, unsure why his chest tightened. He nodded anyway. As they walked, the wind carried the scent of earth and grass. Eli realized he wasn't anxious about the silence anymore. For the first time in years, he wasn't walking alone. The old fence line stretched across the far edge of the ranch, weathered and uneven, a reminder of years of quiet neglect. Eli walked beside Ayana, the ground crunching softly beneath their boots. The sky above them was pale and open, and for once, the vastness didn't feel overwhelming. It felt honest. Ayana stopped near a leaning post and studied the land for a long moment before reaching into her bag. She handed Eli a small, worn notebook. He turned it over in his hands, unsure why something so simple made him nervous. Inside, the pages were filled with neat handwriting. There were lists of repairs, reminders about supply orders, notes about which cattle needed closer attention, and ideas for pacing the work so the days wouldn't drain him completely. Eli swallowed hard. He hadn't realized how much of this lived only in his head, unfinished and overwhelming. Seeing it written down made it feel manageable, as if the ranch itself had finally exhaled. "I didn't want to overstep," Ayanna said calmly, "but I noticed you carry everything alone." Her words landed gently, not as criticism, but as understanding. Eli stared out across the fields, memories rising of his parents, working side by side, of conversations left unfinished, of how silence had become his armor. He realized then that being quiet had slowly turned into being invisible, even to himself. Ayanna continued, her voice steady. She spoke about strength that didn't come from forcing yourself forward, but from standing where you are without apology. She told him that land responded to care, and so did people, that nothing grew well under constant pressure. Eli finally spoke more than a sentence at a time. He talked about the weight of responsibility, about fearing mistakes, about feeling like words would fail him if he tried too hard. Ayanna listened without rushing him, without filling the gaps. When he finished, he felt lighter, as if something knotted inside him had loosened. As they walked back toward the house, Eli noticed his posture had changed. His steps felt steadier. The ranch looked the same, yet it no longer felt like a burden he carried alone. That evening, Eli thanked her clearly without looking away. It was a small thing, but for him it mattered. What Ayanna had done wasn't dramatic or loud. She had seen him, organized what he couldn't, and reminded him that silence didn't mean weakness. And in that quiet understanding, Eli found the beginning of confidence he never knew he had.